Hi everyone. This is webcast 2 for week 4, InDesign 1. And I'm trying something new this week. I know it's week 4 and it says down here week 3 questions, but I'm going to see if this helps people, anybody who wants to listen to these extra little webcasts. I'm going to try to summarize questions that came in that I thought were not just that they're good questions, because every question is a good question, but maybe some questions that might need a little extra explanation. And I figure if one person is asking this question, there's probably more than one person who is wondering about that particular feature or option. So this is kind of a summary of the questions that I saw from last week. So this would be week 3, and I just wanted to go over a few of these things. Let's see. Let's start with the primary text frame, because again, it's not an easy concept, and it's going to take the most time to go into a little bit more detail again about it. I have 2 files here. I have one that was created using a primary text frame on the master page, and I have another one called master text frame, which is basically the exact same file, but it has just regular master page text frames. Okay? And I actually created an extra page on this one to show you what happens. Because the question is, and I'm getting this from more than one person, people are wondering why in the world they need it, and they don't really understand the significant difference between a master text frame and a primary text frame. Because they both get placed on the master page, which is true. So I thought a little demonstration might help you visualize why the new, which is brand new in CS6, why the new primary text frame feature is so significantly different. All right, I'm going to first look at the primary text frame page. And I look at my pages panel, and I added a second master page to both these files. So the standard page, let's just take a quick look at it, contains 2 primary text frames, and I know that because the icon in the upper left-hand corner has a horizontal arrow sticking out from it, which tells me that both of these frames are threaded together and they are primary text frames. I created a new master page called Section Opener because maybe on the pages where a new section opens, we want that text to start lower on the page. And in most cases, this is only going to impact the right-hand page, but just to be consistent, I created that same master page layout on a left-hand page. And again, if I select both of these, I can see that they are primary text frames. I'm now going to navigate to page 5 by double-clicking on page 5, and we can see that page 5 is currently based on master page A because master page A is listed in the upper right-hand corner. But this is, in fact, the beginning of a new section. So I would like to apply my new section open master page to this page. And I take that master page and I drag it over the top of page 5, and just that quick, it replaces the old text frame with the new text frame and starts this content lower on the page. If you have not dealt with a master page or a master text frame, you're just going to go, yeah, what about it? This is the way it should work. I always joke that I get so excited about so many of these features in these page layout programs, and my kids are like, well, hey, it should do this and it should do all the laundry and the dishes, because they just don't know where we've come from. So let's go back and let me show you where we came from in previous versions up to 5.5. So here's the master text frame example, and I added this page in front of the threaded content because I want you to see, first of all, in order to type text in this frame, I'm clicking here, and I know that there is a text frame on both of these master pages, but it is not a primary text frame. It's a master text frame because it does not have that horizontal arrow. So I go back to page 5, which is based on master page A, and yet I click and I can't select anything. If I was importing text, I could hover over this and might get its attention and let me use it, but if I'm going to enter any text from scratch, I'm going to have to hold down my override master page item keys, which is the Control-Shift or Command-Shift on the Mac. Click. Oh, come on. There we go. Wow, that just did not want to release. And let me zoom back out. And now I could either double click or I could switch to my type tool. Either of these is going to take care of that. And I can start entering text. So that's number one. I can't type directly in a master text frame. I have to have a primary text frame in order to do that. Now I'm going to go ahead and delete this particular page and bring this document up to what it looked like in the other file. So I have a set of 3 text frames. And because this is a section opener, I want to apply the new section open text frame, which let's just take a quick look at that. Again, I have lowered the text frame, but both of these text frames are master text frames. They are not primary text frames. So I'm going to apply the same change. I'm going to take that master page, place it over the top of the document page, so that now this document page will be based on master page B instead of A. And those of you who are concerned about the fact that I have little A's up in the corners of master page B, that's because master page B is based on A. And whenever you base a master page on another master page, you will see the indicator of that parent master page, which we talked about a little bit in a previous webcast. I double click on page 5 and nothing has changed. Absolutely nothing. In fact, it's a little bit worse than that. Not only has nothing changed, if I move this text frame out of the way, I can see that I have the master page text frame sitting underneath it. And it's locked, right? So to fix this, what we used to have to do is we release this frame. Often we would thread this existing text thread into this frame. Then we would go back and delete the first text frame. And now I get the result that I had essentially by just using the primary text frame. So first, I don't have to override it to type information in a text frame that is a primary text frame. 2, when I use a primary text frame to override an existing document page text frame that is a primary text frame, I am not going to have to jump through anywhere near the number of hoops in order to get that text frame to respond to that change. So those are the 2 things that I would say are the reasons why you would want to use a primary text frame over a master text frame. The fact that you're limited to 1 per page, you know, that is a challenge. You're going to have to decide if you have multiple flows going. You're going to have to decide which is going to be the primary. And with anything that you're having to add master text frames to, you are going to have to take the manual steps to get that content into that new revised text frame. All right. Enough said about primary text frame. I'm hoping that answers the question. If not, and anyone still has some questions, maybe we'll do a one-on-one and go through that. Because as I said, I know it's a confusing topic, but I think the best way to get into this and really make it your own is to play around with it. Try different types of text frames, the primary versus the master, and see what happens when you make changes on that master page. So the next question, which I thought was a really good question this week, just because I feel a lot of people probably didn't even realize that this command was there and might be confused by the fact that it was even brought up. And that was that somebody asked a question that the command that we've been talking about all semester, view, display performance, typical display versus high quality display, that exact same command is on the object menu. Notice it's at the very bottom, display performance, fast, typical, high, and use view settings. And the reason this exists on this menu is because you can apply a sticky display performance setting to individual objects, and then they will ignore the file display settings. And there's one difference that will show you this in the commands. If I go to View, Display Performance, notice that we have Fast, Typical, High, and then Allow Object Level Display Settings. Those object level display settings are the ones that we set using the Object menu. And if I go back to the Object menu, choosing again Display Performance, not only do we have Fast, Typical, and High, notice that I have one that says Use View Settings. And that's the default, because that means that by default, all images in your file will respond to the setting that you choose from the View menu. I'd like to draw your attention too to the fact that these are all dimmed. Why can't I select any one of these? And the reason I can't is because I do not have an object currently selected. So it's not going to, it has nothing to apply that setting to. Let me just show you an example of how this works. Wow, I just cannot talk today. Sorry about that. I'm going to zoom in on this image right here. And I can see that this is pretty pixelated. But if I go to View, Display Performance, High Quality Display, notice how crisp that image gets. So let's go back. Let me zoom out. Let me zoom into, let's say, this face here. And though this was an action shot, so it's a little bit blurry, you can see that it's more blurry. It's not so much pixelated like we were seeing with the typical display performance. So hopefully everybody believes me when I say that now every image in this file, and this is basically your lab 4 for this week, by the way, is responding to that display performance setting. Let's go back, change this back to typical display. And then I'm going to select this one image, and I'm going to change its display performance settings, just this one image's display performance settings, to typical. Notice that the default was Use View Settings, and I choose that. And let's just take a look at it again. Very pixelated. Go back out. I'm going to go to View, Display Performance, High Quality Display. And everybody, if you were looking closely, you see that everything shifted just slightly because we've got that nice smooth look. Let me just zoom into here. And we can see that this is, even though it was blurry, it's definitely high quality. But if I go back to this image that I overrode on an object level, it's very pixelated. So you might be thinking, why in the world would I do this? And I don't use that very often, but I'm just thinking through this and trying to come up with some reason why you would want to do this. Let's say that you had an image that was vector, because often vector images come in really poorly unless you use high display performance. And it was a particular logo that you had to move things closely around. You might say that wherever that logo is placed, you want to be sure that you are viewing that in high display performance. But at the same time, let's say that you have a file that has 100 images and they're all incredibly complex images. So you don't want to have the view setting set to high display performance because it's slowing your video card down too much. You might want to take those 2 logos or 3 logos, and you're going to go to the Object menu, choose Display Performance, choose High Quality Display, and then you might have everything else governed by the View menu. And another thing I want to be sure that you don't forget to do is at some point, moving forward with this file, if it has a long life, you may go back to this and say, gosh darn it, my display performance is broken on this image. Why is it not going to high display performance? You've got to remember that you're going to need to click on that image to clear this. And I would either have to go back to Object, Display Performance, and then choose Use View Setting, which means let it respond to whatever I change from the view setting. Or if you think you've done this to a few images and you don't want to have to go back and individually change them, you can go to the View menu, select Display Performance, and clear Object Level Display Settings. And when I do that, I'm going to just double check my display performance because I've changed it so many times I can't remember what I had. High quality display is what it's at right now. And sure enough, I zoom in and it's very clear. Okay, thank you for asking that question. I think that was a great one. I am getting a couple questions about the content grabber. And I think that this is really interesting. For some reason, and I don't know why, because I know I've seen in the previous instructors' webcast that the content grabber, or what we call the little donut, appears on her webcast, but it's not appearing in mine, and I don't know why. And maybe when this gets recorded it'll be better, but we'll see. But I can see that my cursor is going from the point, and as I get close to that area that normally has the little donut, it turns into the hand tool, and when I click I see that the border is a different color, indicating that I am no longer selecting the object, I am selecting the content. What surprises me is if you are running into a problem where this is getting in the way, this is really bothering you, you can turn the content grabber off. But if you turn it off, and I'm trying to remember now, I always leave it on. It's funny, when it first came out, in fact I wrote it on the blog and now I can't remember, I cannot remember, sorry you guys, where, was it interface? Can't remember. Oh my God, how embarrassing is that? Sorry. Anyway, it's on the blog. I put it on there. When this feature first came out, all the blogs were just going nuts over, I can't get used to this. I'm turning it off. I don't like it, and so on and so forth. But for me, I've always really liked the added functionality of having that content grabber. I just make myself stay away from that part of the image. And when you can see the donut, you can do that. Now this individual who asked this question is saying that they are moving their cursor just like I'm doing here, and they're not seeing the donut, which is surprising because when you turn the content grabber off, you should not see the hand tool. So it might be some sort of video display problem, something like what I'm having happen with the webcast, where for some reason in this interface it's not showing up. All right, another person had a really good question. And let me go back to this for that. They wanted to get rid of hyphenation in their particular document, or a particular, I think it was just a particular paragraph. And I just want to reinforce where that change is. When we get more heavily into text, I'm going to be spending a lot more time with these types of features. But for right now, if you are trying to produce a lab and you're getting a hyphen and you want to get rid of it, and if you're familiar with being able to handle hyphenation and justification in other applications, just place your cursor in the paragraph that you would like to affect by this change, and you can go into your control panel menu, which is in the far upper corner of your application window. Hold that down and choose hyphenation. And the justification, I know some people were saying in previous applications they're used to H and J's. We used to call them being together, but they're controlled differently in InDesign. Hyphenation has its own dialog, and there's all kinds of things you can do to control this. So if you want to get rid of that hyphenation, you just turn that checkbox off. Notice everything goes dim, and you can go ahead and click OK. The other place, and notice too, sorry that the hyphenation is gone. But the other place we're going to control this, which in a long document is a much better place, is when we get into paragraph styles. We are going to want to modify that here. And I don't want to take too much time to go into this, but in your paragraph styles options, it has the exact same dialog. Every command is exactly the same as when we chose it from the control panel menu. It's just that now I can tie it to a paragraph style that if I apply it, then these settings get applied to that paragraph or paragraphs or pages for that matter. The other question on a text level was spelling. If you want to spell check your lab, and as we get into more text, you're going to want to double check that. On the edit menu, you'll see spelling about 2/3 of the way down. And if you want to check the spelling, you'll use the check spelling command. And it's pretty intuitive. I think it's very similar to what you would expect in any other application. And again, when we get more into text-related webcasts, I'm going to go into this in a lot more detail. But the one thing I would like to say is that if you wanted to check your entire file and not just that story, you are going to want to change the search from story to document. That's going to be really important, especially in a lab, because so far our labs have not included threaded text. So if you have one text box on page 1, another one on page 2, another one on page 3, and they are not threaded, and you have it at story, all it's going to do is spell check the content in the one text box that you have placed your cursor in. So I usually always try to make that change, make it document so it'll go through any text that's in my file. All right, one last thing I want to mention, and we're done with this. I found out this week that I'm finally, and I hate to even say this because school has been saying this for days and it hasn't happened, but I'm supposed to get my Kate access this week. And this is going to be a little critical this week because this is the week that we have the final check-in has to happen for this class. The census the certified roster has to be submitted. So in lieu of not having Kate at the moment, I am going to send out an email this week that says anybody who believes they are still in the class and who wants to stay in the class, you've got to respond to this email and tell me that you're in the class. Otherwise, if I don't hear back from you, and I get to be the last minute on Friday before I get access to the email, because once I get access to Kate, I have your roster as it stands right now. Currently, I have an old roster. Another instructor was able to get the roster, the head of the department, and if any of you have dropped the class, which you wouldn't be listening to this if you had, I don't know about it. So that's why I'm going to need confirmation from everybody, because I want to be sure that if you have dropped the class that I don't include you in that census and final certified roster. So please, I'm going to make a big deal about this email. I'm going to put urgent on it to try to get everybody's attention, but I will need a response back from everybody who wants to stay in the class. And if I don't hear back from you, I will probably send out a second email just to be absolutely sure. And this will not be the email address that you might have used to get on the WordPress, because some of you didn't use the same email. This is going to have to be responded to by the email that you registered for the class for. Okay. I think that'll do it. So that's questions for week 3, and I will keep track of the questions for week 4, and I'll try to do the same thing. And if you feel that this is helpful, let me know. If you feel that this is not really helping people, then please let me know that too, because I'm trying different things each week to see what's going to work best. Okay, till the next webcast, signing off. Bye-bye.